Alright, let's see if this phone stand actually works. I keep starting this video and then, it's... Anyway, some of you may remember, maybe about almost 2 years ago, I made a post saying that I was going to do a video series, and it was going to be kind of a combination of lab notes for myself, an updates kind of thing for you guys, as well as like an educational thing for you guys and myself, and also just a way for me to kind of let stuff out that's in my head, because I spend 99% of my week, maybe 95, by myself, not speaking to anybody, and it's just not really good for my mental health. And I have so much crap in my head all the time that I need to kind of let it out by talking about it. Otherwise it becomes like my head just gets filled up with all this crap. My ADHD and my various other cognitive issues, just like, it just gets bad. And it's always better for me when I can like talk about stuff, even if I'm just talking, even if I'm not having like a back and forth conversation like this. Anyway, that video series did not happen, and it's not because I lost interest in it, and it's not because I just being lazy or didn't have enough time or any of that. It's because I'm a perfectionist and I overthink things, and as a result, it's hard for me to just do something without putting a lot of thought about it ahead of time. And if I do that, 9 times out of 10 it's not going to happen, because I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to talk about this, and I'm like, I don't know, maybe I'm going on, and I'm like, alright, I'm going to think about this and do it later, and I keep going, and I just go through that over and over again, and it just doesn't happen. Or I do go and actually film something, and I look at it, I'm like, and it's, it goes completely against the whole point of it to begin with, really. And it's silly. I just, I'm not someone who stops myself from doing things because of my insecurities. Like, I'll just deal with them, because I'd rather, I've always been someone who's like, I'd rather be myself and deal with the difficulties that come from being yourself, and not, watching, or not thinking about what you say before you say, I'd rather just be myself and live with it. Because otherwise, if I'm thinking about everything too much before I do it, before I say it, before I do it, whatever, it's silly, and I do those things, unfortunately. I just usually push through it. So I'm doing this video as a way to try to work through the issue that I've been having that's made me not do this video series. And obviously a big part of a big hurdle to get over is just the initial thing, the initial post. And then, after that, it gets a little easier, and then I have to start doing it consistently. Honestly, like, every day I think, I'm just going to record this video, I need to get this out of my head, and I'm going to post it. But the other issue with this, and maybe it's even bigger than the overthinking perfectionist part of me, or maybe it's just part of it, I don't know. But I've never been someone who is comfortable with just talking about myself and being the center of attention and all that. Like I have a thing in me that's like says that's not a good thing. You need to be more humble. You need to, it's not to say that I haven't been someone that's like, I talk a lot. Like when, back in the day when I was in high school and stuff, you couldn't get me to shut up sometimes. And, but, I've never been, someone who likes to like complain about his problems, which I realize now a lot of these things have just been like hindrances to me, and that I need to be okay with like talking about myself, and being okay with having some attention on me. But it's definitely, it's something that I'm not comfortable doing, so I need to just find a way to push past it. Especially since nowadays, I keep telling myself, like, everybody else is doing it, why don't you do it? It's not like, it's not gonna... And a lot of people seem to talk just nonsense, or just tell you stuff that's not true, and it's like, That's the other thing, I think about stuff that I'm like, that I have this say, or that knowledge I have that I think could be helpful to others, and especially certain things when it comes to like, music technology and even music creation to some degree. I hear people talking and I'm like, no, that's not true, and I don't want to be someone who's like also being like, everybody's telling you nonsense, don't believe them, believe me. But it's like I like to help people. I just like to help people when I can. And there's the other thing too. It's like sometimes I'm like, I don't, I'm not a wizard at, technology. I know people say exactly that about me, which is awesome. But I'm more, if I'm a wizard, I'm more like cheat with, like Rombaday kind of. It's like you can be a wizard without being all knowing. And my magic isn't necessarily refined, and anyway, just being silly. But that's sometimes it's like I guess that's also part of the perfectionist overthinking part. I'm like, well, if I say this, if it's not really completely true, I have to explain that. And you can see just from this video my problems. It's like, it's all, everything, so much of the things that end up getting in my way come from inside of me. And I think that's the case for a lot of people, really. But with someone who like me, who thinks too much about and just thinks too much, and I think that's part of my ADHD. It's just my brain needs to do more than I'm having it do, and as a result, it like takes that energy or inclination or whatever, and it kind of like runs rampant and just knocks around in my head and causes damage to other things that were fine to begin with. So yeah, I'm gonna try to, I was thinking, okay, am I gonna do like particular things, like, okay, like have a set of videos that are just about electronics, and then have a set of videos that are just about, mental health and this and that. And again, I know I should probably just do it. Just something comes to my head, make a video, post it, and be good with it. Um, one of the other ingredients in this is the fact that when I speak, I'm also speaking for my business. So it means that in the back of my head, there's this caution flag that's coming up and saying, be careful, because you don't want to do something or say something that is going to somehow negatively affect your business. And my business is me, and it's a little, and the fact that I don't have anybody else working with me means I don't have someone else to say, Alan, that's probably not a good idea, or that might sound this way or that, or whatever. So I never have someone to bounce ideas off of either. I know it's excuses, excuses, excuses. Really, what I'm trying to do is just work through the reasons why the things that are in my head that are getting in my way with this. And like I said in the beginning, like sometimes I just need to talk about stuff and I figure it out. When I put it into a cohesive sentence that someone else can understand, I have to make it I have to focus on it and take it from like this chaotic thing and turn it into a very, understandable, focused thing. I think, I don't know. I feel fairly certain that people will enjoy it to some degree, whatever it is, whether it's, I know, like, I watch tons of YouTube on, everything from, like, early microprocessor technology to, synth module reviews to whatever. I love just hearing people talk about what they're into and stuff, and I have to try to remind myself that there's, just because I'm Alan Pavlica doesn't mean that other people aren't going to dig what I have to say, and it's like, I don't know. Again, it's hard being, part of me just sees doing this as selfish. No matter what I tell myself, in the back of my head, there's something that's saying, you're just being, or it's like an ego thing, and even though I know it's not that, and I got a lot of hang-ups, I grew up with, like, a lot of mental health issues around me, and they sunk in, of course, and I went, through a bunch of very difficult things early on that, my mind had to deal with, so it put these things in place to try to help me get through it without it, like, screwing me up totally. And so now I'm, these past few years with therapy and stuff, I'm finally dealing with all of that and putting things back to the way they should have been, and essentially reprogramming myself, because I, things that happen in your childhood that are traumatic or disruptive or whatever, because our minds can't deal with it properly and understand it, our subconscious does things to help us get through it, to survive it or whatever. And then those things are just a part of us. And then as we get older, we don't even necessarily realize that they're there or that they're not good for us. and then that's where therapy comes in, and you find out, like, oh, this is not normal, or this is not a healthy way of thinking or being or whatever, and then you have to undo it. um yeah, so anyway, uh yeah, so I don't know. I've been thinking about just doing a video or two about um designing effects for bass and for lower frequency instruments. So that's been, a huge part of my design work from the very beginning. It started with me trying to figure out how to get a distortion pedal that worked well with my bass, and that that led to everything else. And it's, and when I first started Mountain King, I was like, I'm just going to design effect pedals for bass guitar, because there were so many pedals that just did not work well on bass, and so few pedals dedicated to bass, and even the ones that were didn't do a very good job. They were like, they seemed like they were like bass effects designed by guitar players, and it's like it just never quite figured it out. But there's some simple things that you can do if you're looking to design, say a distortion pedal for bass, or to modify an existing circuit. There's certain simple, small things that you can do that can really make a huge difference. So I thought that might be interesting. I mean, it's interesting to me. I love talking about electronics, like talk for ever, really. Um, so yeah, and I know I'm just gonna have to, you know, just pay attention to the response to it and see if it's, without overthinking the responses, just to see, I want to make sure that people aren't just like bored so much that they're just gonna leave and go someplace else to listen to another talking head. Um, and I think I I know I need whatever I do. It has to have something to do with Mountain King. At least most of it has to. I can't go too far off, because it's just, it's, unless I'm doing my own thing separate from Mountain King. It needs to. That's what people are coming to me to hear about and to find out about, and it's knocking all these thoughts around my head now. Anyway, um, feel free to leave a comment, give me your thoughts, and I don't know, hopefully this will push me to do it finally. And I'll figure it out as I go along, and need to be okay with it being unfocused at the beginning, and because I know it will slowly, get into a direction and take off from there. So anyway, y'all, thanks for listening.